Incoming. That was close. Hey guys, it's Keith here, and today I'm going to be playing on Ruda Forest with my Marine Armour division. In this matchup today, I want to talk about a few things actually. Namely, it's about positioning your soldiers in this game. I find that positioning in this game is very key, more importantly so than capturing the positions itself actually. So if you're in a position to be able to put your soldiers in the correct places, you're going to take advantage of a lot of things like being able to hit the enemy first and spot them, and many other things. Well, as always, for now in phase 1, we're just going to be deploying our forces, and I'm going to be bringing in a Patriot right now just to cover the air. Thankfully, my allies has the air covered pretty decently here, and the enemies didn't really bring out any airplanes at the start of the game. So right from the start, we were able to catch out a few of their aircrafts and really sort of have the skies uncontested and at this point in time. So that actually allows the rest of the team to bring in their helicopters loaded up with their troops and very quickly secure some forward positions here. And you can see I brought in my Stallion, which is itself carrying a team of Marine Raiders as well as just regular Marines, who are gonna just move forward and secure the forest for me in front of here. You notice that I also brought up the LAV AD here just to provide me some air cover. Now it's always a great idea to bring in a shore rat piece as part of your opening moves. This is only to make sure that you're not getting swarmed by enemy helicopters and you manage to catch out any cheeky enemy helicopters that are, trying or foolishly gonna move past the midpoint and try to capture your position instead. But for now, we're just gonna take it slow and make sure we get our soldiers into the right position. Now, about positions in this game, positioning is actually very key, in my opinion. A lot of times I see a lot of players just dive straight in and gave the fast move order right into one of the points here. And in fact, in the beginning of the game, I think it's not so important that you capture any of these positions very quickly. In fact, I would prefer not to capture any of these things with the first units that I have on the ground, only because if you do so, you're gonna telegraph your position to the enemy. And so, for example, I see hotel now. Well, I did spot a couple of Barbarous moving into hotel right now, but assuming I didn't see the enemy unit cards there, by them having captured hotel, I now know that, hey, there's at least one enemy unit currently in that position. So that's gonna keep me on guard for a bit, and I'm gonna have to be wary about pushing into hotel. So if you can, get your units into a comfortable position first to control the map, and not so much on capping the objectives. Because in Broken Arrow, unlike in Warno, in Broken Arrow, capturing the position so early in this game, it's not gonna mean much, strategically speaking, at least. So I've also brought in a M1A2, just a basic SCP. This one doesn't come with any active protection system, so no APS on this. So I'm gonna have to be wary about enemy ATGMs because it's definitely gonna damage me in some ways. I'm just saying nice here because one of my teammates here did disconnect for a while, but managed to join back into the game. Unfortunately, the enemy team is experiencing one of the players there to disconnect, but again, quickly reconnecting back. So nice, we're having a full 5-on-5 here. And my teammate here pushing on the right side objective here. It's gonna get engaged by the enemy Barbarous team. My M1A2 managed to shoot at the enemy Barbarous from the back here, so causing, you can see, already half damage. Unfortunately, unable to effectively take it out for now. But more and more enemy infantry is coming towards hotel and contesting. So my game plan today here is really to take control of this jungle or this forest right here. You can see I'm pushing out my infantry relatively deep into the jungle just to make sure that I'm covering the jungle itself and I'm not getting flanked or by any enemy hidden units here. You can see we now have a big engagement here between my Bradley. The cavalry scout's going to move into the position here. We're going to be encountering a Oknomonchiki squad, quickly taking it out. Double vampire teams. It's going to pose a threat to my Bradley and Abrams for sure, but unfortunately one of the vampire squad is out of range at the moment, so I'm going to have free reign over those squads very quickly. I'm moving my marines here in a position just to cover, because I was expecting the enemy BTR to be charging straight down the road, so I was setting up in a position to be able to ambush that enemy BTR. But you can see, like I said, quickly taking the point immediately, it's just gonna open you up to enemy fire. And in this case, I was pretty confident there were enemy troops in those buildings there. And you can see how putting your units in a position, or consequently putting them in a bad position, it's gonna cause you to lose those infantry unnecessarily, right? So yeah. But with us winning that engagement, I'm comfortable to just push in my AAVP here just to capture it. And then if you see that it's capturing, it means it's clear right now. There's no enemy infantry or enemy units contesting that area. So quickly gonna load my marines back up in order to shift them into a different position so that they can be even more effective right now. You can see I've actually brought up a supply dump very quickly on here. Now the idea with supplies is you want to be able to top up your units, because the ammo that these units have is limited for sure. So you want to be able to put them in a position where they can always contest and have them reloaded and have them relatively healthy, so you can then challenge any enemy forces that's gonna come at you. Now unfortunately my tank is tracked at the moment, as indicated by that red gear sign, so I'm gonna have to be bringing in the supply dump to essentially is dumping right next to it in order to heal it back up. So friendly drone is spotting all of this information for us right now, and I can see that the enemy is gearing up for a massive tank push towards the hotel point right now. So given this information, I'm trying to think of okay, making sure that all my units I feel like I'm gonna say position a lot in this game, but yeah, essentially you want to make sure that your units are in a good position to be able to take those fights, right? So infantry are ideal if you can place them in a place to ambush the enemy units, and you can see very quickly what I mean by that. So I have some few tanks in place, I have a few infantry further up ahead, supplies is further up further back from the front line there, which is gonna give me a fallback point for my units who are damaged or needs to rearm to regroup. You can see I've also brought in a Viper in here very quickly in here, just so that I can provide an additional Hellfire missile downrange to make sure that I keep my enemy in check. Missiles slinging around, the Patriots of my allies here providing decent air support, air coverage. And you can see there's a Tor from the enemy team also doing the same thing. So currently right now, we're at a very healthy lead, +3 for capping the point. And here we go, guys. You see the enemy now charging down the road, and quickly it's gonna bump into my Marine Raiders and Force Recon. You get very quickly eliminating one of the enemy tanks. With that done, I'm gonna be pulling back my infantry, just so they don't stay in the fight and take unnecessary damage. While at the same time, I'm gonna push out my tanks You can see the enemy team from the right side now charging down the hill is going to be bumped into my Marine squad, who I've cheekily kept hidden in the back building here. Ideally, I should have micromanaged a bit and used my Marine to target the enemy Dervazaya or Sosana, I believe that was. But then again, with my Marines in that position managed to catch out, it's going to push back the enemy team just a little bit. Now the enemy tanks trying to find my infantry, failing to do so, but it's going to be met by a number of tanks that I have waiting for them. Unfortunately, my helicopter pushed up too early, too close to the front line. It's going to be taken out by the enemy AA. But in this short amount of time, we've managed to take out, I think, at least 4 enemy tanks, which allows me to quickly push up. Now, a bit of a mistake here. My M1A2 SEP V3, one of the heaviest tanks in the game, was easily taken out by an enemy Barbarous because I was presenting my side armor to it. So a note of caution for you guys: make sure that the armor that you are facing is actually very important. In this case, you can see my M1A2 normal SCP taking frontal shots from the enemy Barbarous and does nothing to it, really. So yeah, bit of a loss for me. My ally with his Iron Thunders quickly demolishing the enemy infantry there. Very quick reaction on my ally there, so kudos to him. But we've stabilized the front for now, so the enemy push was dealt with very quickly. And that's also due to because we have ample decent positioning in this game, and there's a lot of meta or a lot of techniques you can think of in this game, but I think one of the key points in this game really isn't about trying to kill the enemy. It is mostly about getting your units in the right place and taking the enemy from different directions. So now, with my units pulling back to the nearest supply dump, topping up, all my units are kind of fresh and resupplied. I'm going to be pushing that up. So ideally, when it comes to positioning wise, I'm going to be looking for a place where I can put my infantry, where they can do the most amount of damage and they can be well, essentially most efficient and effective. In this case, the tree line on the right side here, where if I can place some of my tanks or even a Bradley there, I could deny the enemy certain covers. But so when they are pushing towards me, they're gonna have to cross the open ground, which leaves them very vulnerable to my tanks who are hidden in the tree line. So when it comes to positioning, it sort of boils down to you want to be in a place where you have cover yourself, but also be able to deny the enemy cover when they try to push against you. Now, a bit of a cheeky Urugan or whatever that artillery piece name is called, Sospeak, I think, managed to dodge both my lav and the sniper team, but after it's revealed its position here, it's gonna be quickly dealt with by my lav. So my pack here, one mistake I made in putting this pack in this position is I didn't realize that by hiding it in the tree line there, I was also limiting myself to a lot of vision on the sky. So that's something that I'm also trying to work on in terms of better positioning for AA pieces. But for the meantime, since we've won multiple engagements so far, I'm gonna push my tanks ahead and capture those significant positions that I mentioned earlier, which is gonna allow me to cover that side of the front. Now, because we've pushed out so far ahead, and it's something to think about as well, guys. Like, if you've captured a point, it's pretty useless to stay within the point unless it's being contested or challenged, you know. So my thought process here is, once I've captured hotel, I want to push out further so that I can cover more ground and make sure that if the enemy were to try to push towards me, they're gonna have to go through a lot more forces of mine before being able to even reach hotel. But I am gonna keep a scout cavalry team in the point or somewhere nearby, just so I can sort of have a multi-layered defense situation going on. And I'm also wary about the right side there above the hills, where my teammate is still trying to push through that objective and be on the same front line as me. In this game, it's crucial to think about your flanks, and if you're not paying attention to your ally on how they're doing, you could very easily leave yourself to a very vulnerable position. But right now, enemy aircraft is coming in, and my teammates Patriots actually failing to take it down. Mine, because of the vision that's being blocked, wasn't able to shoot it until much later on. And at the same time, the enemy actually coordinated this push, so a bunch of heavy tanks, I think there were maybe 5 or 6 enemy heavy tanks rolling down the street here, unchallenged, uncontested. And now I'm the only player that's closest to the enemy tank, so I'm gonna have to engage that very quickly. And because I had tanks very nearby, in a relatively good position, I was able to catch these tanks off guard. And you can see there were multiple T-14 Armata, some of the best tanks that the Russian side had to offer. I was also facing up against T-90s. Again, multiple heavy tanks, and I only have 2 Abrams here able to contest, as well as an infantry squad and my Marines trying to react to this sudden enemy engagement here. So the idea is I'm gonna try to delay them as much as possible and ping my ally and let them know that, hey, that's a bunch of enemy units here. My M1, well, my tanks here barely surviving I think there were 3 direct shots from the enemy tanks here. So I'm gonna be doing a bit of my micro here and smoking it out, reversing, while trying to catch some side shots. I do get one cheeky side shot here, but my tanks does finally go down. But again, my allies here who's playing with the Iron Thunders really on point, managed to take out 3 of those tanks. Now, while this engagement is being dealt with, a second enemy player decided that this is the right time to push towards hotel right now. And you can see on the right side there, multiple enemy APCs just rolling down, IFVs just rolling down the road. Now, because I had those 2 tanks in position with my infantry in the forest there, I was able to ambush and really damage the attack here. Now, like I said, before they could even reach hotel, they have to go through all my soldiers, and essentially I push the front line so far ahead that they weren't expecting any of this at all. So great work from my units here, being able to hold out and really engage and disable this attack, stop it in its tracks before it even had the chance to contest in hotel. But you can see my units on the left side here is heavily damaged. I'm gonna have to either fall them back to the resupply point or bring the supplies up towards them. Enemy artillery coming towards the objective here. But luckily my tank was managed to back out and get away from those artillery strikes. So again, those were 2 massive enemy pushes there, and because I was in the right position with adequate amount of forces, was able to essentially stop and hold the front line and safeguard my flanks and the objective at the same time. So that was one of the cool parts of this game. And I think it's important to think about Broken Arrow not as a game of just charging your units in and trying to kill as many things as you can see. If you start thinking about positions in this map and where you can put your units in, I guarantee you're gonna be experiencing a much better game than just blatantly rolling your units down the main road. So throughout the front, I think I've my allies are doing relatively okay, but you can see in the town area on the left side, we've sort of been pushed back further towards our spawn point. The enemy team is really focused on that. And with the airborne engagement, I mean the enemy airborne dropping a lot of infantry there, we're gonna have to be wary about enemy infantry, especially VDV troops inside the Foxtrot and Charlie right now. So with my units now topped up, I'm gonna be rolling them out, and unfortunately bumping into not one, not two, not three, not three guys, one BTR and a fourth motoperheka, so a strong enemy infantry push. But you can see the strength of the tank is really no match for all this infantry squad. Now granted, these are cheaper infantry that are available on the Russian side, but with my 3 units here I was able to hold out and essentially shut that push down as well. Now if the enemy didn't bunch up their infantry like that, if they spread it out a little bit, maybe one of the motoperheka squad might have been able to flank around the side and maybe hit some side shots there. But yeah, we've survived. That strike group there survived another attack, but unfortunately my tank is all in the red, so it definitely needs supplies to patch it up. I'm gonna be quickly spreading those units out just in case of any enemy artillery strike coming in for that group there. But you can see constantly I'm trying to shift my units around and make sure again I'm moving my pieces around so that they can anticipate and they can quickly react to where I think the enemy is going to be pushing us from. Now throughout this game, something I don't talk about often is the supply management of this game. The general thought is, if you can keep your units supplied as quickly and as safely as you can, then your units are going to be at a healthier state than the enemies, which means that you could really ideally stay in position a lot better. But the most common mistake that I see sometimes the enemy team and even my allies is you should never put your supplies at the front, on the front lines, really. So it's much better to fall back your units to the supply point than to bring the supply point to your frontline units. Only because the supply point itself is actually a very very big bomb. So any random shells on any explosive there is just gonna cause a chain reaction. It's gonna damage all units around, and plus it's it's extremely wasteful, because if you spend a lot of points and money on the supplies only to have it blown up just like that, then really it's just a waste of points, guys. You can see on the map here I've sort of set up a supply hub right in the center of my group here, so I can quickly shift those supplies around or maybe even drag my units back. Now at this point in the game, we're somewhere in the middle of phase 2 right now, and I see that my teammate isn't doing really well in the center of the map here in this apartments building, so I'm gonna be looking into supporting the middle points here, making a push towards Foxtrot, Charlie, and eventually Echo in the last point here. Throughout this game, while I'm trying to secure this tree line here, I'm also constantly trying to think about how I can support my allies on the left side here. For the moment, right side seems to be doing well. Solid defense on my teammates' part here. But you can see right now I'm just queuing up, getting my infantry inside the AAVP, the transport, just to be able to bring them back to the supply, rearm and heal up. Sap V trophy here, engaging. I don't know how it does that, guys. Like, I don't know how. Maybe it engaged something midway, but maybe lost contact visual, but it did successfully manage to kill something inside that that apartment there. So yay. Well, this is the funny part. So my tank, and I was deciding whether I want to shift my tank back, but unfortunately, as soon as I unloaded the supplies, one single enemy artillery shell managed to just blow that whole thing up. My poor Logi vehicle just got blown up. The silver lining about that though, is my tank got healed up immediately. So, yay. But right now with Foxtrot secured and under heavy enemy artillery bombardment, I'm gonna be looking to support my ally here to push into the next point forwards. I've brought up a couple of AVP with a couple of Force Recon, Marines, as well as Mech AA units just to cover against enemy helicopters that's probably gonna push up towards us. So in this situation here, what my ally should have probably done is actually to push out further ahead in order to deny more grounds for the enemy to find cover. Something like what I'm doing right now, keeping this tree line under my control. It's very important for me, I think, to be able to spot the enemy push against us, as well as prevent them from having any cover themselves. But you can see I'm not trying to rush down the main road, just gonna be positioning myself and making sure that my infantry gets into decent cover. I am gonna be pushing out my heavy tank into the center of the crossroad just so that it can sort of spot any early targets and draw enemy fire if it counts. Right now I see that it's not taking any contact, so I'm just gonna be pulling it back and exposing it less from enemy fire. But because my teammate wasn't doing a certain forward recon, I figured, okay, I might as well start putting some units over there just to cover the open ground that really has no cover, so I can easily spot enemy vehicles coming down. A little bit of friendly fire from the ally Iron Thunders there, almost killing my teammates' group of infantry there. So that was a bit of a blue on blue situation mishap. But you can see an indication sometimes when you see artillery coming down like this. Generally, it's a solid indication that the enemy team is preparing for a push. And you can see in a few minutes what I mean by that. Because a general Soviet tactic would be to soften up targets or position with pre-fire artillery bombardment. In this case, I think the enemy failed to capitalize on that and make sure that they time the artillery with the push that they're about to make. But even if that's it, our teammates and myself here are making incredible progress in retaking this position. We're gonna be gearing up to push into Echo ourselves, and I see I already have elements of my soldiers here in the tree line here, ready to push in from the eastern direction of Echo. Right now, just making sure that I have my Javelin team covering this top side of the position here. I also have a squad of Marines down here, because I'm gonna be moving it down to make sure I cover this roadside. Understanding what your units are good at, what they're equipped with, and their maximum range of engagement is crucial. Because the more you understand how best to use your infantry or your units in general, the better you can decide or dictate where they should be placed. Now I'm gonna be pushing up my. So you can see I just dropped a ping indicating I'm dropping a supplies there. The idea being that I see a lot of my allies' infantry is actually down to low health, so I wanted to make sure that I could be giving them supplies so that they can rearm themselves. And you can see another renewed enemy push here, and they're pushing in without smokes, and That's one of the mistakes that they have, I think. So it's just gonna be a blob of enemy tanks and IFV trying to push in. One good thing is they're no longer rushing in down the road, but with my cavalry scouts on the side, they're providing javelin fire. So my marines was able to catch out enemy infantry in that position. My tanks proving a solid front. Now I have a second tank trying to joining in the fray. An assault man with small is going to be providing additional fire support on this enemy tank. So it's a lot of close quarter tank engagements, you know, sort of tank on tank CQBs. We're going to be quickly shutting down this attack here. Unfortunately, I did expose my rear armor to the enemy BMP, so that's going to be taken out of the board. Now, this time, my ally wanting to try and repeat the same tactic they had, but fortunately, my Patriot was in a position right now to be able to launch 2 missiles consecutively and shut that down immediately. So a lot of the enemy infantry on that plane is definitely taken out of the action right now. A last enemy tank is pushing into the tree line, and I think I wasn't paying attention to this, so I wasn't reacting to it much quickly. A second enemy tank push right now in this other direction, and again my units are in the front line of engagement here. Marine raiders taking a lot of damage, but still in the fight. And at this point I realized that there's at least 4 heavy enemy tanks mixed of T-14 Armatas and sort of T-90 tanks. Unfortunately, we're going to be joined by our allies here and going to be providing some much needed tank support. Now while that's going on, I'm just queuing up certain orders here to make sure that I get my units back into position so I don't micromanage so much. You can see a lot of thick, heavy close quarters tank battle here. My M1A2 is going to come in, does get taken out, but I have the Marine Raiders as well as the Assault Men, the small team there, being able to hold these tanks down in position, allowing my teammate to drop bombs and targets. But again, with the infantry this close by, was able to cap out and sort of engage and shut that push down as well. Bradley is going to be backing off, doesn't have the firepower to engage the tank directly. However, the Bradley is exceptional in defending against enemy infantry caught out in the open. So I'm going to be using the Bradley to engage the Russian infantry that's just smoking out on the right side of the screen here. Small is gonna push in and really try to fight the tank head on. In this case, you can see my Bradley really punishing the enemy infantry for getting out in the open. So a lot of intense fighting happening at this moment. Here you can see with my units in certain places right now, I was able to shut down 2 of the enemy pushes very quickly. And again, because of the positions that we were in, they were never able to challenge any of the points that they were trying to push into at least. So with a lot of our units heavily damaged or maybe even killed, we're going to be looking into reinforcing some of these positions, as well as bringing in new supplies to top up the damaged units. Alright, now just going to move the tank back into position, setting up and making sure my Patriots get topped up. Now I did bring in a Gimlet. This is a cluster artillery strike, and I did manage to spot a very nice juicy target here. 2 enemy Taurus as well as a Dervataya there, hidden in the tree line, but is being spotted by a friendly drone here. So I'm just gonna queue up a missile strike, launching its full salvo 12 missiles, or 12 rockets, sorry, to that position. And here we go. direct hit on one of the terrorizer, however unable to take it out for now. We did manage to kill one enemy Tor, and hopefully, there we go, a second enemy. I think that was the terrorizer that I managed to take out, so well done. And I'm just gonna be selling that after the fact, because don't really have the APM right now to micro the cluster artillery I have. But with my supplies in place, which again quickly allows my units to top up and refresh themselves, my units are now in a position to be able to push out, in the condition to be able to push out and put pressure on the front lines again. Having adequate supplies close to the front line is crucial. And generally, if you ask me, I think 6,000 supplies for what I have in play, it's generally more than enough for the intermediate range. Meaning, if you're looking to bring in supplies, you should ideally bring in something like 6,000. Between 6 to 8,000 is best. Anything more than that is not necessarily good to be up so close to the front line. Now, a bit of a mistake of my ally here, grouping up most of its cruise missiles and packed defenses, I mean Patriots, in one place, being taken out by one single enemy Tor cluster artillery, and that was unfortunate. Now, briefly, you managed to see a lot of the information that was presented to you about the enemy position. We can see a lot of enemy tanks and transports are pushing towards us right now. So that's something that I was wary about. But here's another instance of why positioning matters. Now, the enemy helicopter was charging down, and I was able to put my lab, which is in close by, to be able to quickly take out the enemy helicopters in an unsuspecting location. You can see that enemy helicopter was quickly dealt with because it wasn't expecting my AA piece to be in there. So again, now I'm just going to be pushing out my Marines into these high rises, which is going to be able to provide me with certain kind of visions, as well as keep my Marines safe from being out in the open. So we slowly inch towards the last enemy point to capture. If we capture this, we're gonna trigger the sudden death countdown, which gives the enemy only 2 minutes to reply and respawn. So I was definitely looking to capitalize on our wins right now and make sure that we sort of dominate the game as best as we can. We're going to be bumping into two enemy scout team, so I have a few infantry here myself. So I do have two AA team who's going to be sitting in this high rise here, and just to provide AA fire. You can see even transport units like the AAVP here able to dish out its grenade launchers onto enemy infantry target, which is very nice. Now again, I am still bringing in fresh supplies and having my logi trucks to move the supplies around so that they can be even closer to where I need them the most. Now, enemy artillery does actually manage to do some damage to our infantry here, but unfortunately for them, they weren't able to kill off any of the decent units that I have. A big tank push right in the center. A couple of tank pushes were actually right in the center. We were lucky enough for the enemy to not be pushing into our direction actually. So I'm not sure why they didn't decide to push into me. But to respond to that, I'm going to be quickly bringing in my tank to sort of engage the enemy tanks down that road here. So yeah, you see the enemy tank very low on health now. It's going to be limping off, but does get caught out by the friendly Comanche here with its Hellfire missiles. And because I'm playing with the Marines, I get access to the Prowler as well as the Harvest Hawk. So I'm gonna be quickly bringing in fresh reinforcements quickly into the field. The reason why I'm bringing out the Prowler together with the Hawk is because I want to make sure that I cover the Hawk when on its approach to drop off the infantry. Now, I did bring it up to higher elevation. Maybe it was to scare off the enemy AA, so I sort of forced them to turn off their AA to the last minute. Somewhat successful, however, both Prowler and Harvest Hawk did get taken down in the end. Now, for now, we're just juggling between all the units here, making sure that we don't get accidentally blown up by enemy artillery right now. When you're bringing in soldiers, troops, airdropping them like that, the first thing you should do is just move them out of the way, because you can be 100% sure that the enemy is gonna target the landing position with artillery fire. So I was able to get away safely, relatively safely with my infantry. So it's just gonna be pushing out and taking some of these positions here. So I did notice Bravo. My teammate did attempt to capture it. However, it was being bombarded by heavy enemy artillery fire. So I'm just gonna be sending out a left in order to capture that for ourselves. So with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left into the game, but it is the final point, so we're just gonna try to take it out and try to trigger the sudden death countdown here, just to put more pressure into our enemy troops here. All in all, I think we've dealt with a lot of the enemy pushes into that tree line here. I think the enemy sort of gave up in attacking that direction. So this allows me to sort of focus our forces in this location as well. We sort of shifted our attention from the forest in here over to the left side in a tough urban battle inside this building. Now with the sudden death being triggered, the enemy now has 2 minutes to eventually kick us out from any of these points, and so that's definitely gonna put a lot of pressure on them to do something or make something happen. So right now, again, following the idea of making sure that I cover more ground ahead of the points, I'm just gonna be pushing out my infantry a little bit further out. You can see the enemy forces are massing around the forest here north of Echo. I think they're just gonna try to make a push towards Echo in order to decap it and just stay in the fight. Kudos to my enemy so far. None of them have ever actually given up so far, which is always nice to see, because it's sort of a good indication of good sportsmanship setting. So I'm going to be rushing my tank forwards, trying to catch out as many infantry units. That's when I start seeing triple enemy helicopters just diving straight into Echo right now. Thankfully, I have a lav with me, so very quickly able to take out 2 enemy helicopters. However, the enemy aircraft there, very nice missile strike. You can see a renewed push. I think this is the whole enemy team trying to push everything they have into Echo right now in order to decap. But it's a little bit too late. I think 3 seconds left on the clock. I think it's gonna be a solid win for myself and team here. So nice game. I think I really enjoyed this one, and I think I played relatively well. We did manage to come up with 11,000 kills with 5,400 deaths, bringing our KD to a comfortable 2.06, which is nice. Got a few medals here. So all in all, I think in this game, a lot of good positioning got us a lot of good kills. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you on the next one.